Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Welcome, Stephen.
Morning, how are you? Or afternoon, I'm sorry. How are you doing?
I'm doing
all
great.
discombobulated now. Sorry.
No worries. Today we have author S.A. Schneider. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yes, that's good.
And you are a middle grade fantasy author, correct?
Yes.
Fine. Well, jump in and tell us about your books.
Okay, well, this is book 2 of my Town Magician series. Book 1 was Embracing the Magic, and it follows two main characters, Rory and Samuel. And in their world, people can channel magic, and those that can do it very well become town magicians, which protect their towns. Rory is the town magician of Samuel's town, but he's a fake, and Samuel knows it, but nobody listens to him. Then an evil wizard dropped by and challenged Rory. So Rory said he was going to go train with the Grand Wizard. Samuel did not believe him, thought he was just running away, and followed him to make sure he really got trained. But also he's hoping he has some magic that the Grand Wizard can help bring out. Won't give the whole story away. Things happen. Very good climactic ending that I worked on. So read that. A lot of things happen, changes in Samuel's life. One of the things in that story, though, after I was working on it, was Samuel was an outcast in the town. People didn't listen to him. The kids didn't talk to him and stuff because his father was the town drunk. And there was a little hint of that throughout the book, but I didn't delve into it. That wasn't the story. But when I was done, I kept going back to that. It's like, what happens now that things have changed in Samuel's life after book 1? How does that change his relationship with his father? And that's what book 2 is basically about. Samuel finds some things out about his father that he kind of blows him away. He doesn't quite get it. And they have another adventure finding out the truth, him and Rory.
Him and Rory. Okay. And that's interesting. So what prompted you to write these books?
So originally I was writing other things, and a friend of mine, Jay Thorne, another author, and his partner Zach, their publishing, was working with me as coaches, and I was trying to write basically adult thrillers, and they were like, "Why are you doing that? You're a kid writer." I'm like, "I am." They're like, "Dude, everything you do is kid like. You still collect Star Wars figures and watch Star Wars. You watch cartoons with your kids. I mean, you're just enmeshed in kids. You're a scout leader, soccer coach, everything else, you know." They said, "So try and write a kid's story." So that's what I started to do, and it clicked, made sense. Well, I was writing kind of a superhero story at the time, and there was a local Wizarding World Fest at Kent State because I live by Kent in Ohio. And I wanted to go there, but you don't take superhero books to a wizard fest to sell. So I wanted to write a short story with wizards and magic. And I did. I wrote a short story, but unfortunately, that story had a lot of things in it that needed said, and it became book 1. And as I was writing it, I realized I could write at least 3 other books, if not more than that. So there's a whole series planned for the whole Town Magician world.
Fun. Yeah, I feel like that middle grade age is so fun, and your kids, well, my kids are grown now, but your kids still want you to read to them. They still want to read with you, and it's so fun to just live in stories like that, and that you can continually follow the characters and they're learning and growing and doing
Yes.
things, right?
Yeah, my kids are grown now too. I've been writing and they've gotten grown up. But I remember when they were younger, reading to them just about every night, all the time. And we started to read the Harry Potter books. And we were on book 3 or 4. I kind of forget. I think it was 4, actually. I was partway through it and they were restless. They weren't even paying attention. I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? You love these stories. We've been having fun with it. They're like, Daddy, we're both way ahead of you. We're done. We're almost done with book 5 now. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I stopped reading to them and I had to finish the series on my own.
Yeah, I remember. I think my daughter let me read to her through like 6th grade, and then I got cut off.
You're done, Mom. I'm reading
Yeah,
other stuff.
definitely. The friends became a little bit more important than the mom, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's what happens.
So this is book 2, and you said you have some other books planned as well.
Yes, so I do have a couple short stories out, and I've got a before book 1. They're like prequels. They're on my website. I've got some short stories between book 1 and 2 that are coming out that you can get see what happens in between. But as happens, one of those short stories changed and grew, and it's becoming a book of its own that's probably about halfway done. So, book 3 is going to be worked on, but I'm kind of working on this in between story from book 1 and 2 to get that out first. So, I've got everything planned out for book 3, but this in between story kind of grew, and now I've got to finish that one.
Fun. How did you come up with the idea for these kids channeling magic? I mean, I guess you talked a little bit about wanting to go to the Wizards con.
Honestly, I don't even really remember. It was just me. I think my son and I were on a plane to Rhode Island. He was talking at a convention out there. And I kept thinking, like, I got to think of a story. What can I do? I'm like, I don't want to just, oh, a young boy gets a letter, goes to the school. I don't want to repeat Harry Potter. What's the point? I wanted something different. I wanted my own magic, and somewhere along the lines, the story just kind of grew out of that. And like you probably hear before, and many other times, I don't quite remember the whole story evolving. It was just this boy that wanted magic, and then it was well, he's the outsider of the town, and well, what if their town is this magician like protects them, and why would that happen? And it just kept growing from there as I kept answering questions and asking more.
Neat. And so you said your kids are grown now. Did they
Yeah.
actually read the books?
Yes, actually, my son, even though grown, he reads most of my stuff and gives me feedback because he's pretty good about giving me feedback rather than just about everybody else I know. I'll say, hey, if you want to read this, I'd love some feedback. They read it and say, oh, yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, okay, I like that. I'm like, that doesn't help me at all. My son will say, yeah, this doesn't sound right. Like this isn't what Rory would say, or hey, you forgot about this, or really, are you going to leave this part in here? That's stupid. He'll flat out tell me, and I'm like, great, do it, because I'd rather you tell me this stuff than I publish it, and then 500 other people tell me that when it's too late.
Right. Well, and the transgressions of magic, you talked about Sam, I think it was Samuel, correct? That he was kind of outsider. Those are kind of hard topics for kids sometimes, especially when you are thinking about a parent who may have mental health or other issues. Was that a goal of the book to kind of relate to kids in that way?
It was not the goal when I started writing it, but it definitely became more the goal and focus as I wrote it, and the theme itself kind of came out. In the first book, even the Samuel being the outsider and the other kids picking on him, and him not feeling like he belongs and really wishing he could, that wasn't really a goal of that book, but it made sense and it came out well. And that made the ending, all that more dramatic, the coming of age, and all of that. So it grew as I wrote the book. And then the same with number 2. I was exploring how Samuel dealt with his father, but that always brings up other issues. What was their family life like? What was his father like? And I didn't want to get a lot of 3rd and 4th graders read my books, sometimes older too. Also, it's what I really shoot for is middle grade, but I've been hearing 3rd and 4th grade click well with it. And I didn't want to get, the drunk abusive father, and it was too much. But
Right.
I wanted to touch on that because there are kids dealing with that. But I get nervous because in today's environment, you write something like that and you get some parents going, well, you can't write about a drunk father being abusive to a kid. That's wrong, blah, blah. I'm like, but these kids are dealing with this stuff in real life. And as we've heard many times before, if they don't see the reflection of that in the media, in the movies, in the books, then they feel alone. They feel like something's wrong with them. Like they can't say anything, that they're the one that should, they're the ones that would get in trouble. So it's a huge balance in trying to, fight that line. How far do you go, but, without making it too bad? And it became much harder than I anticipated. But once I got going, I had to keep going. The father has a redemption arc also, and I needed that in there. And if he wasn't the mean, abusive drunk, then his backstory didn't make as much sense, and his trying to redeem himself would have been pointless.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think fantasy is a good way for kids to kind of explore those relationships and those issues kind of in a safe way where and it's a good way to talk to kids. I mean, even if they're not experiencing some of their friends might experience something
Right.
like that. And teaching, okay, my black cat's gonna cross. Sorry. Teaching kids about empathy and paying attention to your friends or what your friends are going through, or those dynamics that can exist, I think are good learning tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about it, fantasy being a way to bring that out. We always get comedians that point out our environment and our culture and the mistakes and the problems. They do it through comedy, sarcastic, and all of that. The other one big is sci-fi. Sci-fi can get away with reflections of our society that you can't do in other media. I remember the classic Star Trek episode where there was two beings that were fighting, trying to kill each other, and they were the last two of their race, and they were trying to kill each other, and there was nobody left. Their world had destroyed itself trying to kill each other. And one guy was white on one side and black on the other, and the other guy was black on one side and white on the other. And everybody in the Enterprise is like, "You guys are the same." They're like, "No, we're nothing like each other. Look, I'm black over here and he's white over here. That's totally different." And it's like when you stop and think about it, it's like, well, duh. So yes, doing something like this in a fantasy, if I would have made goblins and it would have been goblins with an abusive goblin father, and it probably wouldn't have even raised eyebrows or had problems. But they were still human, so it's a balance still.
Right. Yeah. I, but it's a safe way to introduce some of those themes, I think,
Yep.
and a softer way to introduce some of those themes.
Yes, I hope so.
Well, great. So the name of your series is the Town Magician series, but has your book already come out, Transgression of Magic?
Book two will be coming out in August. I'm shooting for right before school starts because all of my stories, I'm trying to work with teachers and homeschool parents. And I put discussion questions for each chapter in the books and even the free short stories. I also put words to know. Um, I feel that's a whole different issue, but I think sometimes some kids can read bigger words, like bigger words, and I throw a few of those in there at times to try and give them something new. So I put those in the book, let me explain this word, but then I also have inspiration, fan fiction kind of within my world to get them to write and encouraging them to use some of these words they may not have known before.
Wow. That sounds like a great tool for teachers, and a fun book. So definitely for those education people, it sounds like you're hitting the mark.
Yes, especially when we were going through COVID and suddenly every parent became a homeschool parent and they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, I've got it right here in the back of my books. Here's some stories. You can get the kids to read, get them involved, get them telling stories. And I think that's super important for our kids is to have them tell stories. We don't do that enough, I don't think, in our culture.
That's a lot of fun. Tell everyone where we can find you and your books.
On the web, I've got a website, sa-schneider.com, and Schneider is Schneider. all my books are there. All the stories are there. I've got an upcoming series that's a little bit on there with a few stories already. I'm working on my video game storytelling books, and those will be up there soon. That's getting worked on also.
Do you ever sleep?
Yes. But when I sleep, that's when ideas start to come. Sleep or taking a shower or driving. There's so many times when I'm like, oh, I solved it. Well, while I'm driving, and I have to like stop and write it down. Or oh my gosh, I'm taking a shower. Good thing I don't have hair to wash, because I can get out of the shower a lot quicker.
So much fun. Well, thank you, Stephen S.A. Schneider, Middle Grade Fantasy, and we will look forward to your next book.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.